All right, guys, this is Darius with Off-Road Universe. Wanted to give you a little bit of a photo collage and video update on this tank repair. This is from an 88 DT50, and this tank was pretty dented up, and I knew I needed to use it. So first thing I did, obviously, was get all the paint off. The decals disintegrated, and ended up, though, finding a set of replacement decals in Portugal. And once I got all the paint off, at that point, I could use the Bondo. What I did right there was just wrap it in a garbage bag so that paint stripper, this is the brand I use, would actually stay moist enough and not evaporate and really eat through that paint. Once that was done and I had it all cleaned up to the bare metal, I went ahead and used Bondo. It was my first time actually using Bondo, and pretty much works like clay, but it dries in like 3 to 4 minutes. So that was the biggest challenge with it. But one of the things that made this absolutely very easy was using an electric buffer, like a rotary sander. That helped immensely to get this down. And I pretty much, used about 80 grit. And then I did some lighter buffing at 320 and 500, but I got it really most of that material off at about 80 grit, and just made sure it was really smooth. If I could do it again, I might use like a surface putty afterwards, but I just use a straight Bondo on all those dents, and anywhere you're seeing Bondo, there was a dent or an indention, etc. And I used an etching primer because we were down to metal and I wanted to make sure we had good adhesion. So after I used the etching primer, I then used like a sandable, buildable primer. So I used two primers, and I just spent time sanding down, getting it really smooth with 1500 grit. And by the time I got, to just the straight primer, sanded down, it was very smooth. Cleaned it off with a microfiber rag and some, spray cleaner, like a Windex type thing. And from there, I just went ahead and started spraying. You're going to see the next video what it looks like after it got sprayed. It looked really good. Let me show you guys here in a minute. Now, what I used was just Rust-Oleum Professional. It comes in a stainless steel can, and it really came on extremely smooth, nice and thick. That was about 2 coats, and I said, you know what, that's good. So I let that dry and was very impressed with it. Obviously, that's not the end of the process at all. There's decals and there's hardener that we needed, but I was very impressed with that coat. And I hated to sand it down, but I ended up going to 1500 grit sandpaper, and I sanded that down just to make sure that we would have good adhesion and remove any imperfections, right? It's not going to be perfect. It looks good in the garage, but it's not going to be perfect in the daylight. So we wanted to get any imperfections out. And one step I missed here was I did get the decals on the bike, and that was after the sanding and after the black base coat. Got the decals on, painstaking, lined them up according to how they looked, the DT50 looked, etc. And then this is after the 2K clear with hardener. This is the ERA paints. Spray can did this, and I really like this paint. Went on really well, and honestly, I don't see much orange peel. It's not complete glass, but it's pretty high quality, and I would say the nozzle and the formulation goes on really well. This is very similar to what I would think a stock OEM paint job for a motorcycle would look like. I mean, we're not talking about a car here, talking about an off-road dirt bike. I mean, it went on very good. So what I did 3 coats, 2 light coats, where I just started getting some sheen, but it's a little bit of, roughness on those first 2. And then the last coat, I laid it on fairly thick. My goal wasn't to get like a thick, glossy coat the first, time I hit it. But as I got progressively through the coats, that's what happened. And I waited about 10 to 15 minutes between coats, and I shook the can, for about 2 minutes before each coat. And that's where we're at. Looks really good. If anybody is a, DIY guy trying to repair a gas tank or repaint it, you totally can do it. Your main thing is you want to take time. You want to sand. This is the ERA. I found this on Amazon, and really good stuff. Hope you guys like the video. You guys can do this, and I'll put some pictures of the tank as it sits right now, just to give you guys some perspective. And don't be afraid to do it yourself. If you make a mistake, you can sand it out. You can always fix a mistake and learn in the process.